Some breaking news to get to on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for your support of the show. So many content options out there. That's why we're so thankful that you chose us. As for that breaking news, Nakobe Dean placed on IR with a lisfranc sprain that he suffered in that win against the Dallas Cowboys. He is now out indefinitely. And coming up on today's show, what this means for Philadelphia, who's going to step in and replace him, all that and a lot more. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, breaking the news just a little while ago on this Wednesday afternoon, saying that Dean has been diagnosed with a lisfranc sprain. He was the one who was calling the defensive signals to start the year for this Eagles defense. Wearing that green dot, he will now see a foot specialist to determine a course of action, but he's expected to be placed on IR. So Philadelphia able to come out with a huge, massive win against the Dallas Cowboys, but they lose Dallas Goedert, all-world tight end, with a forearm fracture, and now they lose Nakobe Dean with this lisfranc sprain. He did miss 4 games earlier this year with a different foot injury. That was a different foot injury on a different foot. Important to note that. And my instant reaction when I saw this news, this is tough news for Nakobe Dean. Year 2 player, great opportunity to be one of the captains of this Eagles defense. Studied engineering at the University of Georgia, where he won a couple of national championships. And for Nakobe Dean there, he was heralded as a great instinctual player and a captain on that squad. Barely played as a rookie after he slid to the Eagles in the draft 2 years ago. And now he gets playing time to start the year. He calls the defensive plays, suffers 1 foot injury, comes back, and now he's out once again. So for him, has a lot of talent, but hasn't been able to develop because of those aforementioned injuries. And his inexperience as we project forward for his career, for this Eagles defense, it's a little bit problematic. And I'm not going to act and sit here and say that Nakobe Dean was great in coverage as a linebacker against the pass game. But against the run, he was actually a very, very solid player, able to sniff some plays out and make some momentum-changing plays. 33 defensive snaps as a rookie last year coming out of Georgia. This year, 182. And you take a gander at his usage by game, this is a player whose development you want to see continue because he's an affordable player who does have a lot of talent. But going into the draft, a lot of people, including yours truly, a little bit worried about his lack of size, and maybe that lack of size is contributing to some injuries here in the early going. Against the Patriots, played 49 snaps, was good against the run, hurts his foot, so he's out against the Vikings, Bucks, Commanders, and Rams. Comes back against the Jets at MetLife. He logs 32 snaps against the Dolphins, 30. Commanders, highest workload of the season at 50. And then that Cowboys game cut short with only those 31 snaps, 182 total this year, as I noted. And his numbers in 2022, very, very small sample size, was a steady contributor on special teams, but played rarely for Jonathan Gannon's defense. 13 tackles, 9 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 0 pass breakups. And then this year, you kind of got a peek at the versatility that he could potentially have against the run, against the pass, being used as a blitzer from time to time, being able to make tackles behind the line of scrimmage against the ground game. 30 tackles, a half sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 quarterback hit in those 5 games. Why he will be missed, I think he's a really, really solid player against the run. And this is an Eagles defense that actually ranks number 1 as a rushing defense among 32 teams in the National Football League. He's a high IQ player. This is the player who Sean Desai would call the plays into. He would relay that to the defense. That's what I mean by the green dot there. He's an instinctual linebacker, and this hurts his development long term. I will say, we're about to talk about this here in a bit, that Nicholas Morrow, Zach Cunningham, they have exceeded my expectations this year. They have played really well, and they've been better as off-ball pass coverage linebackers than Nakobe Dean, but it's way too early to say that he's a stiff against the pass. As for what the Eagles do from here, I don't think at this point that Howie Roseman is going to make a big move in free agency because there aren't big-ticket players out there. The NFL trade deadline is in the rear view, so the Eagles cannot fulfill Dean's spot by making a trade. But Stay tuned because we're about to talk about some Nakobe Dean replacements coming up here in just a bit. This is why you subscribe to the channel, though, because when breaking news happens, we cover it. We're live here on Eagles Now. Thanks to everybody for being here. If you're watching this after the fact, that's why you hit that sub button, because we have you covered with daily coverage of the EAGLES Eagles. Before we continue to move forward on today's show, Odds Are is our presenting sponsor, and I got to tell you, luck is not a strategy. Odds Are, sign up, and you can see for yourself what we're talking about here. Download the app using that link at the bottom of your screen with Odds Are. What if there was an app that used AI and machine learning to suggest smart sports bets? There is, and it's called Odds Are. It is the mobile app that you need to know what bets of the day are the smart bets to place. Download the app, sign up for an account, and let the latest data analysis guide you through today's point spreads, money lines, and over-unders. You know me and producer Chip, we love wagering on these games. We talk about it during our watch parties all the time. We lay some money down, but we lay smart bets because of Odds Are. For instance, you look at the screen here. When you see green, that's a smart bet. If you see yellow, you're kind of on your own. And if you see red, the numbers don't back up that bet. So it's probably best and smartest to stay away from that bet so you have a better opportunity of winning money on game day. Odds Are doesn't take your bet. It makes you better at it. And with Odds Are on your mobile phone, you're a tap away from making a smart play. It's smart betting made simple to kind of summarize all of this. And you can find the Odds Are app in the App Store or on Google Play. Get a 2-week free trial. It's just $10 a month after that. The casinos and sports books, they want you to bet. Odds Are, and us here on Eagles Now, we want you to win. So go get it. NFL Daily listeners, Eagles Now listeners actually have a special deal too. Get your first 30 days of the app free. Just go to oddsare.com/NFL Daily to download the app. That's oddsare.com/NFL Daily. 30 days of smarter betting for free. We'd call that right there a winning bet. Some more news and notes to get to pertaining to this Nakobe Dean injury here. This lisfranc sprain with the left foot. The foot injury that he suffered in September and forced him to go on IR originally was on a different foot, the right foot. And then this from Elliott Shore-Parks, that Cam Jurgens, right guard, who the Eagles have really struggled to run the football without him. Practice window was open last week going into that Cowboys game, but it was Tyler Steen who got the start at right guard because Jurgens wasn't ready. Him and Quez Watkins still on IR, but will eventually be coming off. If Nakobe Dean is indeed placed on injured reserve, it would open up a roster spot likely for Cam Jurgens. I actually think that Philadelphia is pretty set at that wide receiver position. I like the rotation now with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Julio Jones, and Olamide Zaccheaus. I don't think this team really needs Quez Watkins right now. He's been way too inconsistent. Going back to the question that I teed up a little bit earlier, and the question that a lot of you are probably wondering, Nakobe Dean most likely going on IR. Who is going to replace him? The first option here is Nicholas Morrow, who didn't make the Eagles' initial 53-man roster. The Eagles brought him back to the practice squad. Then once they activated him to the active roster during that first Dean injury, he played great, and he's actually been one of the highest-graded linebackers in the National Football League this year. A classic Howie Roseman signing. Really good bang for your buck. Overall grade for Morrow coming over from the Chicago Bears of 84.9. Run defense grade of 75.3. We've seen Sean Desai use him as a blitzer quite often, and because of that, he has 3 sacks this season and a pass rush grade of 91.3. Dean has struggled in coverage, whereas Morrow has been very good. 76.7 coverage grade, 2 forced fumbles. So he's had a knack for making good plays, 255 coverage snaps, and only 2 missed tackles. As for the other linebacker who's going to be paired up with Morrow as the off-ball linebacker, as Philadelphia runs that hybrid front and second level under Sean Desai as a Vic Fangio disciple, Zach Cunningham has also been a pleasant surprise. And Cunningham has really come out of nowhere to impress a lot of people. Wasn't even with this team at the start of the preseason or training camp. The Eagles realized that they needed to bulk up that linebacker spot, so they brought in Cunningham, they activated Morrow, and they have both been very serviceable players to kind of step in there for TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. For Cunningham, overall grade of 70.9, a run defense grade of 66.7, pass rush grade of 51.3. Pretty solid coverage grade there for Cunningham on top of Morrow's at 73.4. Cunningham hasn't really been used as a blitzer in this defense. He's more so used as that off-ball coverage linebacker. Great hit on Dak Prescott, teaming up with Darius Slay to kind of upend Dak on his way to the end zone. 0 forced fumbles, but 348 coverage snaps. He's played a lot more as compared to Nakobe Dean, and then 7 missed tackles for him. As for how those Pro Football Focus numbers compare to Nakobe Dean, here are Dean's numbers. Overall grade of 61.7. Really good against the run, as I noted a little bit earlier, at 80.2 for Nakobe. Pass rush grade of 83.4, but Nakobe Dean has not been good in coverage. 49.2 coverage grade for the second-year player out of Georgia. He's allowed a passer rating of 102.4. That is one of the lowest among starting off-ball linebackers in the NFL. But why I like Dean, again, the instinctual player that he is, has 11 stops. So he's able to come up to the line of scrimmage and make some plays there. So with that, I do tee up this poll question, and I want to hear from you. Is Howie Roseman now going to make an external move? Is he going to look at the linebacker market in free agency? And should he? What do you think? Do the Eagles need to bring in a linebacker? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. And with that, we appreciate y'all for watching today's show.